This is a result of a game jam, and this is how it happened. The game jam in question is one that I took part in with two other people, Harry Friend and Richard Hancock. All three of us, which are programmers, so that's great. The theme for this game jam was beer. Interesting theme, I know, but that's what we got given. And we had 48 hours to create a game with that particular theme. So, first thing we did was we sat down and we tried to think out some ideas for the game. Richard being Richard, he decided he just wanted to do a space game because he loves space. He's like very space heavy. But however, that's not really very useful for beer. Now, I have an uncle who owns a brewery, or at least half owns it, so my immediate thought was brewing, obviously, because it's beer. So we started to talk about that, and we ended up talking about the fact that, well, recently we've been playing a game called Overcooked. It's a really fun, little multiplayer basic game. We thought we might be able to recreate this in a brewing setting. To be honest, the main thing that swung it was when we decided that we could put a cat in a blender to make an ingredient. Because we thought, well, make it sort of medieval based, or very loosely medieval based, and then we could start putting really random things in to make it a bit more interesting. Now, we then set about deciding what we were going to do for the back end of the code, obviously, because you need to know what you work. Do you want to make an engine? Do you want to make an engine? I mean, use an engine. Like Unity, do you want to make it from sort of scratch using bits of code you've got lying around? Which is what we ended up doing, because whilst everyone else on the game jam decided Unity, we thought we're better than that. No, we didn't think we were better than that. We decided that we had no experience whatsoever in Unity, so we were going to just do it in SDL. We then delegated the tasks, and as I was the only person in the team who had any vague ability of doing art, I ended up doing both the art and the programming. So the first half of the game jam I spent basically doing pictures. As you can see, I've got some lovely sketches showing up here. Then I turned them into vector art because I find vector art quite easy. I went for a prison architect style because, again, that's quite easy. And after I'd finished that, I was also given the task of designing it at the same time. So I was coming up with the names of the ideas of the drinks that we'd be creating. So I was being a bit more unusual with the drinks and the ingredients, and like stations, for example, having a forge to melt blood-stained swords as part of an ingredient. But yes, then I got back to the programming, which is really what I wanted to be doing, because that's what I am. Now, my role was I did the items, I did the interaction with the items between the player and the items and the tables. I also had to get it to display properly, and I worked on combining all the systems we had in place, or Richard and Harry had come up with, for how the game would play in the back end, and me and Richard worked together to try and make it all fit. So I had to come up with a way of making the items be attached to a table or a preparation surface, and then when the player selected it, because I had to have it fit so it was also detect whether or not it would be able to interact with the surface, and then just obviously move it off the surface onto the player and back on again, and so on and so forth. So I set about giving each object its own pointer to another object, so it can have its individual item attached to it, and then it could switch, and then they'd interact and change. This seemed to work fine. Of course, there's some bugs with the collision detection and things, but that's to be expected when you're putting a game jam together in 48 hours, and you are not using a pre-built engine, so you have to do it from scratch. We then had to do a presentation on the thing we'd created, and I ended up being the person doing the main talking during the presentation, because I always seem to. And it went rather well. We actually came third place. We won a £50 voucher, and I was quite happy because the art was praised, which I know isn't important, but made me feel nice.